to me, Jason Tatum, they're very different. Tatum's upside is much higher. Offensively, what do you want in the game these days? You better versatile forwards. And oh, by the way, Jason Tatum can move the ball too. Mm-hmm. He can. Like he's far more skilled than people realize. So I think when you eventually have Kyrie at the best player, Hayward at the 2, Tatum the 3rd best player, and then the key for this franchise, and I'll say it over and over, the key is the Lakers this year.
Yeah.
Because if the Lakers fall 2-5 and the Celtics get that pick, this draft is loaded with good bigs. Or front court guys, forward, however you want to say it, and Luka Doncic being 6'7", 6'8", he's not really a front court guy, but between Marvin Bagley, Michael Porter, DeAndre Ayton, and Doncic, those are 4 guys that to me could all be the number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. I mean, they could change this franchise in terms of adding another guy, and then you've got 4. You've got 4 dudes that you can grow with, of which in 3 years, Gordon Hayward is what, 30, yep. 31? Kyrie's 28. And then you're ready in 3 years to win it all, potentially.
Don't you love the number of Marvin Bagley fans that came out of the woodwork in late August? Like, oh, we got to get Marvin Bagley. I love social media.
And nobody's seen him.
Don't give up the Nets pick. You got to get Marvin Bagley. Like, if you put him in a lineup, would you know who he is?
And the NBA hasn't seen him.
No.
That's the crazy part of Marvin Bagley, because he reclassified and he was hurt and whatever it was last year, the Adidas Nations. The NBA people haven't even really seen him. I've seen him a ton, and he is talented. He and Porter, to me, are like franchise.
But he could turn out to be Harry Giles, like the uber talented amateur with the injury. I'm just saying, but nobody really, they don't know. People that are obsessed with the picks.
No, you don't know, and that's why, again, to me, if that Lakers pick becomes one that's got a lot of value this year, can you then get another veteran who can maybe help you this year? Potentially at the break. Everybody's obviously, what are they? Anthony Davis. I just don't think they have enough to get Anthony Davis now. I think if you had both of those picks, then maybe you could have gotten
You don't think
Anthony
like
Davis.
A Tatum Brown 2 pick in the draft? I mean,
Maybe.
look, I've said it's going to take the greatest package ever to get Anthony Davis out of New Orleans. But if
it can't be the number 1 overall pick, how can you give up Anthony Davis if you're not going to get the number 1 pick? Right?
Unless Tatum looks like a flat-out star in his first year.
Yeah, and he's not.
He's not.
He's not going to. It's
Not
going
on
to
this
take
team.
a little bit of time. And same thing with Jaylen Brown. He's not going to put up 15 points a game. So I don't think those guys are going to have enough value that they're going to trade Anthony Davis for. I think you can get another veteran potentially for that pick and a Jaylen Brown or something like that can help you. And then you're in business.
We're not allowed to talk Anthony Davis on this podcast anymore. People in New Orleans get very mad.
Do they?
At me oh, yeah. I get a lot of backlash from the New Orleansites. Is that how you say it? Whatever down there.
Yeah, listen, I think Anthony Davis will be there. I don't think they...
Long term?
Well, not long term.
Next 3 years.
What's his contract?
He's got 3 years, literally from this season.
Yeah, I think he'll be there 2. And then in the 3rd year, if they're not making progress, and it probably depends on what Boogie does after this year.
Yeah.
Does he bolt? And then you're left with Anthony Davis and a bunch of average players again.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you quickly. We're here at Media Day, and while we'd like it to be Kyrie and Gordon Hayward fitting together, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, this Media Day and every other Media Day is going to be about protesting next year. We already are seeing statements trickle in. I got one from Vivek Ranadive last night. Tom Gores with the Pistons has weighed in. By the time this podcast comes out on Tuesday, I'm sure there'll be even more. What do you expect NBA player reaction to be to all this? I mean, we still have weeks to go till the first preseason game, so maybe things quiet down a little bit. But how do you expect NBA players, mostly African-American, to react?
I remember last year, I can't remember who it was, but after the Kaepernick stuff, I had heard a lot that one player wasn't going to come out of the locker room. And I can't remember who it was now, but it'll be interesting to see if players stay in the locker room, if they kneel down. I heard a stat that I think the percentage of African-American players in the NBA is like 74%. In the NFL, it was actually higher than I thought. It was 70%. So I don't know. I mean, they're more recognizable, right? I mean, NBA players are far more recognizable. I think they've got more juice, and they know that. So will they do something as a unit? I think they're a tighter knit. The NBA is far more tighter knit than the NFL. These guys played against each other in AAU ball. They know each other. They're hanging out with each other in the off season. I don't think that goes on in the NFL. So these guys could come together and be more likely to hold some sort of unified protest than the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's more likely that they go in the locker room. Maybe you have a player or two take a knee, but I can see the horn going off, guys running back into the locker room, and then coming back out. So to make a statement, but maybe not a scene in a lot of. But this is going to be the story all week.
For the first, it'll be the story for preseason and opening night,
right?
And then I think it'll get down to playing,
which wasn't the story at all. Which we had a president that didn't take shots at African American players for the most part. Anyway, Jeff, I know you're busy, man. Appreciate you taking the time to join me as always.
Always good, and build up those Facebook friends. All right, try to get it to 20.
2 social media accounts. Go Snapchat high schooler. My thanks to Jeff Goodman for joining the show. And now, my conversation with former NBA player Stephon Marbury. Joining me on the pod right now is a familiar name in NBA circles, and nowadays even more familiar name in Chinese basketball circles. Stephon Marbury is a former high draft pick, a former NBA All-Star. He has been playing for the last 8 years over in China since leaving the NBA in 2009. He joins me here on the pod. Steph, how are you, man?
I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm good. There's a lot I want to get into here with you, but when I was starting to prep for this interview, it really shocked me that it's been, 2009, 8 years since you last played in the NBA. I mean, you're such a familiar name to so many people. Does it feel that long to you since your last NBA game?
Yeah, it has been a long time. I mean, I've been in China. This is my 9th season here. So, if you look at 9 years in the NBA, some guys don't even make it that long to play in the NBA.
For people that aren't as familiar with your story as others, when you finished your season in Boston, what were your options at that time? What were you thinking about the next step of your career right after that season ended?
I wanted to play in Boston. I wasn't granted the opportunity the way how I would have liked, but I thought Boston was a really good fit for me. Although, I didn't play as much as I would have liked, but I still had the opportunity to learn and to be able to be in an opportunity to play with some amazing players. But at that time, I really wasn't really thinking of much other than playing in Boston. And then when that didn't happen, China came up.
Who first suggested China?
So that's a long story, but at the end of the day, my wife was basically like, well, you can't lay in the bed and you can't go through this whole process of depression as you are. You got to do something. And, I basically got up out of the bed. During that time, I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with so many different things at the time. And, I made the decision to go and do something.
If you didn't go to China, do you think you would have played basketball ever again?
To be honest, I don't know.
Did you have other options at that time?
There's always options because I was still able to play and I still was young. But at that time, I wasn't really indulging into the options of me being able to play.
How big a culture shock was it for you in the first weeks and months being over there?
It was the first 2 weeks was really trying because I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't understand. The food was completely different. But, as time took its course, as anything, you just start to adjust.
And you've written about this a little bit, and I've seen you say it before, but the practice schedule in China is so much different than the practice schedule in the NBA, isn't
completely different. If you told an NBA player that they had to do what they do in China, there's no way it will happen. No way. Especially if, you've never experienced that type of training before. It's completely different from what we know. Was it a good thing for you? To be honest, it was the best thing for me. At that time, it helped me evolve, and it helped my game. It changed my game and the way how I prepared.
How do you keep yourself from not getting exhausted, though, with that type of, mornings and afternoons, double session type stuff?
I mean, I can't even. There's no not keeping yourself from being exhausted because you're always exhausted. But, as I said before, you really need this type of training. It's just it has to be constructed in a way that will be beneficial because, here there aren't any TV timeouts, there aren't any referee timeouts, so the game isn't as long as it is in the NBA. For CBA, you have to actually really be in shape in order to play at a high level and to also play here. If you're not in shape, you're basically doing yourself an injustice to coming here and playing basketball. You won't really make it.
How did you get over the communication issues? Because not just communicating during a timeout, but as a point guard, you've got to be a communicator on the floor, right? How did you deal with the language barrier?
Well, basketball is a universal language, and, I had a translator, but more importantly, we fed off of each other as far as the things that we needed to do on the court. When you make a mistake, when you make a mistake. You could basically use sign language as far as showing visuals of what needs to be done on the defensive end or rebounding or taking a shot. You can do all of those things without knowing the language.
How does the crowd support the fan experience compared to what you saw in the NBA?
Well, in the fourth quarter, that's when the NBA comes alive. Here, they're in the game throughout the whole time. As soon as the game starts, it's kind of like, you watch I use the Dookies as an example. Mm-hmm. The Dookies in the stands, they go crazy the whole time from the first time you take the shot all the way up until the last play. That's pretty much how it is. It's that type of atmosphere.
When did the point come, Steph, that you started to really like playing over there?
I was sitting down with Maurice Taylor. We were playing in Jinsu. It was towards the end of the year. And we were sitting on the floor and we were stretching. And he was like, so do you like it? And I was like, you know what? I really do like it. I like the fans. I like how, the game is changing. I like being someplace globally where, there are the most basketball players on the planet. I mean, as you know, there are over 300 million plus people registered Wikipedia, where people can check, where people can actually check and see, how many people are playing basketball here. And during that time when I was in the realization of, how the game was growing and how it was changing, I thought that, it was a great platform for me to continue to build on.
There are so, as you said, so many Chinese basketball players playing over there, but so few guards that have gone from the Chinese system into the NBA. I was talking to one, Guo Ailun, who was playing over here for a couple of months this summer, and one of the things he was talking about was how in China team skills are emphasized, but individual skills are really not. Have you noticed that it's more team than individual skills being emphasized there?
Yeah, I think it is. He's dead on with that. I think the individual play has to continue to grow. I think with the way how they train here is definitely for the team. But more importantly, the Chinese basketball league is more geared towards picking the best players out of the league to participate in the Olympics. That's their championship. That's their stage. Whereas, we have the NBA Finals. They have the Olympics to look forward to. So all of the players that play in the CBA, those guys are the best guys are picked to play for the national team. So when you have this type of setting, it's completely different.